Hello, one, hello, all, and we are back, folks. It is fall 2022, and it's time for sports. Summer is coming to an end. Fall has begun, and that means high school sports. We are bringing you the ladies' home opener volleyball action here, folks, from Federico Gymnasium. The girls are taking the court. As I said, this is a season opener for both squads. I'm super excited after 2 months off. I'm sure that these ladies are just excited. We came into an extremely animated gym. I don't know if it was from being out of one for a little while, but these girls were excited. I am the voice, Greg Moreno, alongside producer, owner Shane Belanger. We have Lisa behind the lens. Together we are Westerly.live, bringing you all Westerly sports all the time, folks. We got some excitement ahead. The officials getting some final instructions. There's the whistle. He's going to take his perch, and the ladies are going to shake, and we are going to get things started. The girls, folks, had a great season last year, made it to the semifinals in Division III, and in turn were rewarded with a bump up to Division II. So, with the bump up comes the bump up in competition, obviously. Having read the preview and everything, Coach Beal definitely says that it's going to be competition from start to finish all year long. There was sort of a drop off in the middle of the division last year in Division III in quality of opponents, and that's definitely not going to be the case. I saw that in the warm ups. Both teams, like I said, animated, excited, ready to be here. And as I say, they really haven't had 2 months off, folks. These sports are a year round thing for these young ladies and young men. Whether it's softball or whatever they're doing, they're traveling, they're playing sports all the time. So now they're just back at it in Federico Gymnasium. We're getting the final rosters in here from the official. There seems to be only one official here today, so we're going to work with that, and they have players on the corners. And our schedule starts fast and furious, folks. We're here live tonight, and tomorrow night we will be at Charahoe High School live for some football action, 7 p.m. Tune in, Bulldogs versus Chargers, season opener for both teams. So all sports are getting started now. We got some soccer at Salvador Jerry Field right across the way here tonight. No other sports have started yet, so you're getting the first bite at the action, folks, and we're bringing it to you live. We are set. The Vikings have the ball. The official climbs his perch, and we are ready to go, folks. Number 11 serving for the Vikings, Allie Highs. Both teams, Vikings very animated team, like I said, from entering in the gym. First serve, Arnold set, bumps. The set, and spike attempt good for the Bulldogs, who will get the first point. Progressive scoring on every serve, and the Bulldogs get together to serve for the Bulldogs to start the season. Is going to be Abby Donato. She is going to be one of the main setters for the Bulldogs, her and Emma Caracciolo. And the first serve of the season, and was saved. Bump, and going to have to dump it over, and they do. Bulldogs with a safe bump, and they bump set, and they dump. Federico there for the Bulldogs up at the line. Neither team really set into an offense just yet. And a bump, they're going to have to dump it over, and that's what Arnold does to the back line. A nice spot by Arnold, out of bounds, inbounds is the call, and the Bulldogs score the second point of the game. Game 1, best of 5 series, folks. We are just getting started again. This is Westerly.live, Westerly.radio, bringing it all to you. Serving for the Bulldogs, Donato. Waiting for the official, and here we go. Got a packed half a gym here. I think everybody was excited. Dumped over by the Vikings. Nice job by Peliquin on the Bulldogs on the front line. And Arnold with a set from the back line. Donato, and a nice job putting it over the net by Bruno. Brings it back in for the Vikings. They are forced to dump. They have not gotten set yet. And Bruno with the spike, and it's inbounds for the point. Hard hit by Bruno, and that'll be point number 3 for the Bulldogs. Off to a nice 3-0 start. It's not easy. You can definitely tell it's going to be a battle here, folks. We brought a lot of 3-0 sweeps to the table last year, these girls did. I don't know if it's going to come quite as easy this year. And again, the Vikings forced a dump. Beautiful save by Arnold, and they keep it in the air, and Arnold's the one who puts it over. Huge job by Arnold, and it's a Bulldog point. She's come fast and furious, heavy and hot for the season, folks. That one was all to Arnold, 4-0 Bulldogs. And they are looking excited. Can't start any better than this, and Donato to serve. Line drive serve, a nice serve. They let it go, and it is called out of bounds. And that's going to be the first Viking point, and the Vikings will serve for the second time here. So the Bulldogs come out hot and ready to play. Number 2 for the Vikings, set to serve, captain Camilla May. And at the net, nice job by Donato saving the Bulldogs. Federico, bump, and spike by Pelican to the back line. They're able to keep it in the air, a little off the net, so they dump it over. Stepping up for the Bulldogs is Gencarelli. And the spike attempt blocked by the Vikings. Another attempt, and that one's going to drop for the Bulldogs. That's Bruno in the game. She is having 5-1 Bulldogs. And the Bulldogs will take the serve back, and it will be none other than Bruno to serve. So I'll tell you what, I couldn't be more excited about sports, folks. I had plenty of time off. I needed it. We left it all on the table for you in the spring. What a spring it was. Volleyball is not really the sport to get into all the particulars, but constant action here. And they dump it back over. Again, the Vikings haven't been able to get into a great rhythm on offense. Nice job at the net blocking there. Federico sends it right back over. Number 11 with a nice set, a little deep though. They're forced to dump it to the back line. Arnold. And that's Donato, and over the net it goes. That's Tenuta. And the bump by the Vikings, and they're forced to dump it. Peliquin, set by Donato. Peliquin with a soft spike attempt to the back line, handled. And a set, soft spike by the Vikings. And Donato. And that's going to be number 22, Ava Tenuta. And inbounds it is, point for the Bulldogs. And they are clicking and they are having fun at the moment. Obviously, when you're scoring, you're having fun, folks. That's what it's all about. So as I said earlier, boys soccer getting started here tonight. They're across the way at Salo Jerry Field. Football tomorrow night. It all comes in quick, and we're bringing it to you. The serve by Bruno, a nice one, dropped in low. And that spike attempt, nice spike. Great job by the Bulldogs. That's going to be Bruno with the huge dig from the back line. And the Vikings getting into a little bit of the better offense. Tipped at the net by the Bulldogs, though. And that's number 22, Tenuta, who's getting very involved now. And the spike to the back line, Bruno. And handled by Donato, and that's Arnold to the back line. They can't handle it. Point Bulldogs. 7-1 Westerly. And Bruno to serve again on a nice little scoring streak here for the Bulldogs. Looking for 4 in a row. And we have a break in play here. We heard a whistle. We're not sure what it's for. Jim goes quiet. I get loud, and here we go. 13 Bruno to serve for the Bulldogs, and that's going to be out of bounds. So that's what the Vikings were hoping for. Some kind of an unforced error. Bulldogs have answers for everything they've put forward on offense so far. 7-2, game 1, best of 5. Season opener, fall 2022, folks. It is going to be an exciting fall. We're going to bring you soccer, boys and girls. We're going to bring you volleyball. We're going to bring you football. And the serve by the Vikings, handled by Tenuta. At the net for the Bulldogs. And a spike attempt by Federico is blocked by the Vikings, and they will score. 7-3 the score here early on in game 1. Number 15 set to serve for the Vikings. That's captain Dinasha Cherry. And the righty overhand to the far line, a knuckleball handled by Arnold. Bump to the net, set by Donato, and Tenuta's blocked. Bulldogs handle it and dump it back over. And the Vikings in a rhythm now, offensively set a little deep, and they tried to bring it back in, and it's out of bounds. Goes around the marker, and the Bulldogs will get the point. Will break the little streak that the Vikings were on, and it'll be 8-3 here. Serving for the Bulldogs, co-captain Rachel Federico, number 21. And to the back line and out of bounds, Bulldogs will take it, point 9-3. Federico also feels at home on this court, basketball player for the Bulldogs, a captain on that squad as well. Most of these girls, multiple sport athletes, makes it easy, especially in a sport like volleyball, for me to get to know the name and the number. And the setter is getting into a better position for the Vikings. Great dig by the back line for the Bulldogs, though. And Tenuta a little bit deep. So the Bulldogs, Coach Beal expecting good defense at the net with having a lot of tall players on the team, and as well as the back line. And we've seen that here today. 9-4, game 1. Multiple substitutions going on here for the Vikings. Peliquin at the front line for the Bulldogs, joined by Tenuta. And the serve to the middle, handled by Arnold back. Bruno gets at the last second, and Tenuta dumps it over, and they can't handle it, point Bulldogs. So the Vikings unable to get in anything longer than a 3-point run. Bulldogs take it back, 10-4. Bulldogs with a substitution. Pelican will get a break. And in comes Alex Storr, another multiple sport athlete, who just got off the softball diamond. Played in the spring and most of the summer, I'm sure. Storr's serve a beauty. Line drive, drop it deep middle. Number 11 for the Vikings, nice set. Number 7, Spike tipped at the line. Bruno kept it alive somehow, but couldn't quite get it up high enough. And that's going to be point number 5 for the Vikings, 10-5. And they will take the serve back. Number 7, set to serve for the Vikings, Jelani Jackson. Gets the whistle, and we are off. So these girls have been working hard for a long time for this season opener, folks. And Arnold tries to dump it over. A little miscommunication on the Bulldog side. And the Vikings are going to get a freebie. And they will set to serve again with a 4-point lead for the Bulldogs. Jackson gets the whistle. And the Bulldogs with 5 on the bench. And the Vikings with about a dozen. Handled by Donato. Cracchiola to number 25. Can't quite get it over. That's Donato, and that's another Viking point. We're inching closer here, folks. 3-point game. Bulldogs getting a little on-court instruction here from their captains. The whistle, and we're off. Jackson's jump serve, a low one, out of bounds it goes, and the Bulldogs needed just that. They'll get set to serve. They'll take the free point, 11-7 the score. So they hold a 4-point lead. Number 22, Ava Tenuta, set to serve for the Bulldogs. A nice crowd here, folks, for the first game of the season. His first serve. Oh, and she was saved by a Viking. Tipped. It was on its way out of bounds. Brought back in, and that's going to be a free point, number 12 for the Bulldogs, who have a 5-point lead. It's a race to 25, win by 2. Best of 3 series, folks. Best of 5 series, folks. And the set to the back line, unable to dig it out. Nice spike by the Vikings. And it's going to be a point, 12-8. So the Vikings will get set to serve. Sub out for the Bulldogs, and in comes Julia Gencarelli. All these names coming back more and more familiar now. It wasn't long ago. And set to serve for the Vikings. Maybe number 29, Catherine D'Angelo, in the white. Gets the whistle, and we're off. 12-8 score. Backline Arnold with the bump. Store. Bump set to Bruno. Tipped at the net. It's going to be a point for Rogers as it was out of bounds. Couldn't bring it back in. And that makes the score 12-9. Vikings trail only by 3 with the serve. Game 1 of this first game of this 2022 campaign. And almost dumped over by the Vikings. Another miscommunication handled by the Bulldogs. Caracciolo saved. And the Bulldogs a little out of sync now. And the Vikings taking advantage. Momentum has swung a little bit. And we have a 2-point game, 12-10. It is hot in this gym, folks. We expect nothing less from any of the games this season. As I said earlier, the Bulldogs being bumped up to Division II. They expect back and forth 4 or 5 game battles all season long. It wasn't quite that way last year as there was a divide. And the serve by the Vikings. Bruno handles it. Store. Back to Bruno. To the back line, handled by Jackson. The set and the Vikings soft spike attempt. And that's going to be handled by Gencarelli. Bruno with the spike attempt blocked. Point, Vikings 1-point game. And they are excited. They came with a lot of players, folks. So in this small gym, them along with their fans, they can become quite a loud force. And right now, momentum definitely, audibly, is in their favor. The serve looking for 3 in a row, which they've gotten to a couple times. Gencarelli kind of got stuck in the middle of a bump in a set, and it's a point for the Vikings. Nevertheless, we are knotted up at 12. What was a 6-point lead is trapped all the way back to even. Halfway through game 1, we can erase the first 12 points, and it's a race to 13. And the serve for the Bulldogs. Nice job by Bruno with a dig. And it's a bump back to Bruno. And she brings in a soft one, tough to handle. Vikings are able to dump it back over. Handled by Store. And that is Donato. And handled beautifully, dug out by the Viking back line. Brought back inbounds by the Bulldogs. And they get the roll this time. And they needed it as it trickled over the top of the net. It dances in their favor. They'll get the serve. They'll get the 1-point lead. And hopefully they can break momentum here a little bit. As Arnold, the co-captain, will start to serve here and try to quell things here, calm the storm a little bit. It is early, beautiful serve to the back end. Off the rafters it goes. They're forced to dump it over and out of bounds. So that's an ace, folks, for the Bulldogs captain, Arnold. and they will advance their lead to 2. And the serve to the back corner, they let it go. Where'd it go? Out of bounds is a call. It was close, out of bounds it went, so they'll give it right back. 14-13 Vikings lead. And we're getting a little bit of a substitution here on the Vikings side. Set to serve for the Vikings is number 11, Ali Highs, all the way back to the start here. 14-13, middle of game 1. Best of 5, first game of this season here, folks. Federico Gymnasium, I am the voice, Greg Moreno, alongside producer, owner, Shane Belanger. We have Lisa behind the lens. We are Westerly.live, Westerly.radio, and that's another spike by the Vikings offense, which started the day not in sync, is fully in sync now. Like I said, the Bulldogs lead, which was hanging around at 6-5, and now it's been a race to 0. We're knotted at 14. Highs will serve again for the Vikings. And the serve to the middle of the defense. They found a little hole. Arnold with the dig. And the dump over for the Bulldogs by Donato, who's been active. Spike attempt for the Vikings inbounds. Finds the spot in the back corner. And they will take their first lead of this game, folks. First lead of the season, in fact. And Highs set to serve for the Vikings, who now lead 15-14. Need only 10 more. Soft serve. Gingarelli handles. Store to Federico. And her spike goes down, finds the floor. They knot it back up and take the serve back. Exactly what the doctor ordered for the Bulldogs. And number 25, Abby Donato, one of the main setters, along with Caracciolo for the Bulldogs. What a huge spot that is, huge position in this game is setting. And the Vikings weren't getting into a bump set spike sort of offense. And they are now. Bulldogs a little out of sync at the block at the net by Federico, the captain. Finds the floor, Bulldogs point. And they take the lead back. Donato set to serve for the Bulldogs. A senior captain block right there, exactly what they needed when they needed it. And the ace by Donato. The back line can't handle it for the Vikings. So the Bulldogs looking like they're back in sync. Such a game of momentum and energy that volleyball is, let me tell you. Leads can come and they can go quickly. Highest with the set to the net. Spike attempt, and it's a beauty. When they get that offense in sync, the Vikings are difficult. Number 2, their captain, Camilla May, can definitely put it down at the net. This Bulldog squad was a heck of a squad last year, and they're bringing back just about everybody. They also have football in the blood and the lineage on this squad through the coaching and the coaches and families of the coaches. I'll get into more later. Arnold handles it. And the spike attempt by Pelican, and it is going to be ruled in favor of the Vikings, out of bounds. It did hit the floor, and it did look like it was going to be a point for the Bulldogs. Unfortunately, now for the Vikings, number 2, Camilla May, the captain, doing a lot of the damage at the net here and puts it into the net for the Bulldogs. They needed it. Take the lead back 18-17. All right, we're getting into crunch time now. 7 points away from the game 1. It's a race to 25, win by 2. Bruno, no one's had a better game 1 than number 13. Started the season on fire and has continued throughout this game. The serve drops in the back line. They don't handle it well. The ace, right when they needed it, folks, 19-17. She's been there since the first serve of the game, seeing if she can create a little separation. Yeah, maybe even finish this thing. Like I said, runs, they come fast and they come furious. It's a matter of breaking your opponents when you can. And Bruno with the serve. Back line, they let it go a little too deep, unfortunately. They give it back to the Vikings, and they're going to take the serve now. 19-18 the score. Race to 25 here, folks. Game 1, best of 5 series. Number 15 set to serve, co-captain Denacia Sherry. Did a little damage earlier with her serve, if I recall. And this one goes deep, and Arnold might have got a hand on it and gave him a huge break there. The point goes to the Vikings. That was going to be deep. She brought it back in. They're going to have to make up for it here, folks. We are knotted at 19. And I think the Vikings realize they got one there. Let's see if Sherry can put it in the lines this time. 19-19, game 1. We started this fall season on fire, folks. And that one's handled in the back by Bruno, the bump. Donato and the spike by Pelican, handled, dug out by the Vikings. Pelican again tries to put it down. Handled again. And they dump it over this time. The Bulldogs, number 22, Tenuta. And that one's to Donato, and the spike attempt by Tenuta falls to the floor. Bulldogs point, 20-19, they need 5. And like Coach Beal said in her preview, every game she is expecting to be back and forth, nip and tuck, just like this one, and I love it. Let me tell you, I love sports, and I love sports for this reason. And these girls are determined, and it's a beautiful serve just over the net. Finds the floor for the ace. And the Bulldogs take a 2-point lead to senior Federico. And timeout Vikings, folks. Game one, if you're just joining us, race to 25, win by 2. Back and forth. The Bulldogs have led by as much as 6. Vikings got it all back, held a 1-point lead, and now the Bulldogs are up by 2. We are a minute away from action here as the Vikings are in a timeout. I am the voice, Greg Moreno, alongside producer, owner, Shane Belanger. We have Lisa behind the lens. We are Westerly.live, Westerly.radio, and this production is brought to you in part, folks, by Remy Cycles, McQuaid's Ace Hardware, Wireless Zone, the Knickerbocker Music Center Live, and Tim Killam for Westerly School Committee. We are going to be live and in action, folks. They don't make it tough when they come out and they start playing like this. This girls' squad has come out, and they're a determined squad, just like the coach said they were. They are on fire, both of these teams. What a competitive game to start the season. Like I said, we're back in action tomorrow night at Chariho on the road as the football season will start. The Bulldogs versus the Chargers, 7 p.m. Tune in, Westerly.live. We'll be bringing you all the action. And the girls take the court as the Vikings break. 21-19. That timeout tried to break any kind of momentum swing by the Bulldogs, and the serve goes out of bounds. It did just that. That's exactly what that timeout was hoping to cause, and it worked out for the Vikings, folks. And we now have a substitution and a 21-20 score, 1-point game. Getting some final instructions. Set to serve for the Vikings. Number 1, Jasani Ramos. And the serve line drive missile handled beautifully by Caracciolo. The Bulldogs, Pelican dumps it over right around the line, handled by the Vikings. And they're a little deep. They're going to have to dump it over themselves. Arnold handles it at the net. Donato and Tenuta tries to dink it. Handled by the Vikings at the net. Put down, and Caracciolo can't get it quite to the floor. Vikings dump it over. Bruno puts it over the net, into the net. Unfortunately, falls on the Bulldog side. This game is knotted with a race to 4, folks. It doesn't get tighter than this. Let me tell you, this fall 2022 sports season has started out on fire. Ramos looking for 2 in a row. We got a tie game. This one's flying. Bruno brings it. And it is bumped over, handled by the Vikings. And the point's going to go to the Bulldogs as that's the first net call of this game. And it goes against the Vikings to see if the Bulldogs can capitalize. Obviously, they get the point and the serve, and that is huge. 22-21. Alex Storr, see if she can get 3 in a row and wrap up, tuck in this game 1. 3 in a row has been hard to come by. What a serve. That was a heat-seeking missile, folks. Let me tell you. And that is an ace when they ever needed one. 23-21, they need 2 more. And I'll tell you, if she can do 2 more serves like that, they're going to fall as points. That was a forward spin, absolute missile. Over the net again, knuckleball to the corner, a little wide, and it goes back to the Vikings. This game just won't allow any distance. 23-22, 1-point game, race to 25. Number 7 set to serve for the Vikings, Johnny Jackson. Trying to tie things up. We've had so many lead changes. I definitely haven't kept track, but there has been a bunch in just this game 1. Let's hope these girls have their legs under them this game. And it's brought up by Donato. Storr with the set. Caracciolo puts it down, and it goes out of bounds. Bulldogs will take the point. And this is game point. Game 1, yes, we are still in game 1. 24-22, 46 points scored. We need a 47th by the Bulldogs to sew this one up. And Tenuta puts it down. They don't handle it well. They try to bring it back in. They're not going to be able to do it. And the Bulldogs take game 1 of this fall 2022 season. And, man, it was not easy. They are going to switch sides, folks. And what a game 1 it was. So the Bulldogs take a 1-0 lead in this race to 5. I am going to take a short break, and we will be right back with you. We got a 3-minute break between games here, folks. And we are back, folks. Let me tell you, these women made it easy to start this fall season. Any mistakes I made them on a fly so fast that didn't even notice. But I'm going to tell you right now, there's one of these multi-sport athletes, and she's a phenom on the softball diamond. And she's a star. She's one of the primary setters here. That's Emma Caracciolo, and it's Emma Caracciolo, not any of the other chopped-up versions I put out there, because I say her name quite often, and I've been corrected. And I realized that I went back to my old ways. So at least I have that correct. The girls are breaking, and we are getting ready to start game number 2. Game number 1, folks, goes to the Bulldogs, who open their season. They open their Division II schedule here with a victory in game 1. It was not easy, but these girls have perseverance, and that's exactly what Coach Beal and Coach Oth said prior to the season. And what excellent coaching this squad has between Coach Beal and Coach Oth, and the direction that this squad has. They didn't get down. They had a 6-point lead in game 1. All the way back came the Vikings. The Vikings even took a 2-3-point lead at one point, and just the biting back came the Bulldogs. And we're getting ready to start game number 2, number 25, Abby Donato, one of the other primary setters, along with Emma Caracciolo, for the Bulldogs. So it kind of went a little bit in ways. The start of the game 1 went to the Bulldogs, Vikings settled in, middle went to the Vikings, and then it was back and forth to the end. So these girls' legs are going to have to be under them. It looks like it's going to be a long one here tonight, folks, and it's going to be that way all year long. They got to come into the gym ready to play 5, and not that they weren't last year, but I think that they were confident in some of them that they were going to get in and out in 3. And I don't know that that's going to be the case in a Division II schedule, unfortunately. Fortunately for me, because I love the competition. We love it up here. But for the Bulldogs, they're going to have to strap up and get ready as the officials get some final details done with Coach Beal here as they're dotting their I's and crossing their T's. And the officials coming our way, and that means we're about to get started. So, game 2, folks, if you're just joining us, we are live at Federico Gymnasium. Some ladies volleyball starting out this fall 2022 season here tonight, tomorrow night, 7 p.m., Bulldogs football versus the Chargers. Here we go, game 2, 1-0 versus 1-0 Bulldogs. Off the rafters and return to the Bulldogs. At the net, number 25, Donato sets it. Spiked by Federico, can't handle it. Great offense by the Bulldogs. Point number 1 goes in their favor. And the Bulldogs led most of game 1. They did lose that lead somewhere in the early teens, but just briefly. So they did have the lead most of the game, but the Vikings are definitely here for a while. And that one goes off the rafters, gives them a chance, because you can play the ball off the rafters. There are a few peculiarities as far as the rules go when the ball comes off of the rafters, as well as difficulties with the ricochet. That ball goes in the Bulldogs' favor, 2-0, and we are set for point number 3 is the goal here for Donato. Serve falls off the net, and ace it is. Maybe I saw it in advance. 3-0 Bulldogs here. So this is a race to a best of 5 match, I should say. And all the sports are getting started here late in this week, early in next week. We got a soccer game across the way here at Salvo Jerry Field. That serve goes into the net, and that's going to be the first point of the game for the Vikings. 3-1. So at the net right now for the Bulldogs, we have Federico, Peliquin, and nobody else at the moment. Well, Summer Bruno is she's been all over the court. She has slashed from the back line all the way to the front. She definitely came ready to go here tonight. And the serve for the Vikings handled by Gincarelli. And over by Bruno, they attempt to block. You can't do it. Point for the Bulldogs. Tenuta gets the point for the, that was Bruno, again for the Bulldogs. 4-1 lead here in game 2. Bruno set to serve. Substitution, in comes Tenuta. Gincarelli gets a break. And Bruno's serve, handled by the back line. Up comes Hayes and brought over, just a dump by the Vikings. Donato, far side, spike attempt by Tenuta. Point's going to go to the Vikings, out of bounds. Couldn't quite get it between the sticks there for the Bulldogs. Set to serve for the Vikings, number 2, co-captain Camilla May. And the Vikings brought a nice amount of fans with them, brought more than enough players. Let me tell you, they have a big squad. Into the net it goes, point for the Bulldogs, 5-2. So both teams a little, I don't want to say sloppy, but not quite as in sync here early in game 2. I would have expected that early in game 1, but let me tell you, first it was the Bulldogs. They came out solid, and they do such an extensive warm-up before these games. We're here about an hour or so earlier. They are going at it. And then to have to play 5 games, out of bounds it goes. These girls are in great shape, and let me tell you, they do most of their work in the gym while a lot of the teams are outside in the summer. And you see all those teams doing all that work. These teams are doing just as much preseason work, and it shows here as the Bulldogs hold a 6-2 lead in Game 2. And a dink attempt, and it's handled at the net by Caracciolo for the Bulldogs. Tenuta to the back line, out of bounds it goes, though. Nice job at the net by Caracciolo, one of the primary setters. And a powerhouse on the softball diamond for the Bulldogs, who probably just stepped off the diamond actually to play volleyball here. Played all summer long, as well as an extremely successful spring season for the Lady Bulldogs. The entire spring season, what a success it was, including in here in the gym for the boys squad. And Pelican tries to catch the Vikings sleeping as she dinks it over. And a nice set, and they do the same. Arnold has it towards the net. It goes in, and no one's there for the Bulldogs. Point goes to the Vikings, 6-4. So the Vikings inching their way back. At the net is Tenuta and Pelican for the Bulldogs. Caracciolo backs up a little bit as they're running somewhat of like a 2-4 setup. And the serve to the back line. They let it go. Close call. Point Vikings on the line. I thought so. Didn't want to really admit it, but right on the line they painted it, and it's a good point for the Vikings. 6-5. As we said, it's going to be nip and tuck all year long. First game of the season, not much to talk about as far as how they've been playing, how they match up. You don't really know where they fit into this whole scheme yet. And the Bulldogs dump it over at the net, back to Arnold. Bruno, bump. Caracciolo over to the back line. Handled, and the spike attempt stays on the Vikings side. Bulldogs will get the point and the serve, and they'll take it before any kind of momentum or big energy change here on the Viking side. I'm a big momentum guy in high school sports. I definitely believe it exists, and it's a huge factor, especially it can definitely eke in when early on in the season. And the serve by Storr to the back line, handled not well, but handled. Vikings are forced to dump it over. Bad communication up into the rafters and out of bounds. Credit to Storr, point to the Bulldogs, 8-5 lead. Storr will serve again. And let me tell you, that one serve she pulled out last game, holy smokes, I almost couldn't even see that thing, and I'm sitting here live. Is how fast that went. Storr with the serve, another knuckleball deep, and just a little too deep. If she can get that to drop, she has some definite serving technique that is near difficult, near impossible to handle. Point there goes to the Vikings, 8-6. So we are Westerly.live, we are Westerly.radio, and brought to you in part by Remy Cycles, bicycle sales and service, downtown Westerly, 53 Railroad Avenue, as the Vikings make their substitution. And set to serve for the Vikings, number 1, Gisani Ramos, trailing by 2 in Game 2. Bulldogs have a 1-game-to-none lead serve. Bruno brings it back into the net, and Storr does the impossible, reeling it back in, and the Bulldogs able to dump it over. And there it get the point out of it, so that's 2 in a row. Holy smokes, that really shows her athletic ability. Well, I mean, she dragged that thing in back near the announcer's booth from across the other side. Great job by Storr. Bulldogs point in a simple play like that can definitely bring some energy to a team. 9-6 lead, into the ground it goes, and there's the ace for the Bulldogs, 10-6. As they get together, and you can see a little bit of momentum here as Tenuta gets set to serve for the Bulldogs. Man, that was a huge, I guess you'd call it a dig for Storr to bring that back in. To the back line for the Vikings, and they dink it to the middle, handled by Storr. Beautiful set, blocked at the net by the Vikings. At the net it goes. They try to find an open spot. Tenuta. Storr with the set. Bruno with the spike. Dug out by the back line of the Vikings. And they set their spike attempt. Handled by Tenuta. Storr. Tenuta over the net to the back line. Into the net it goes. Point Bulldogs. And they're working hard, and this game is fast. This game is serious. And the Bulldogs are up by 5. They are jumping my season in 100 miles an hour. I'm doing my best to open up. Number 22, Tenuta with the serve, back corner. And they don't handle it. The ace will give them a 6-point lead. This is almost the area of a timeout, as there's a 6-point lead, much more, and you'll probably see a Viking timeout as the Bulldogs into a groove here. And it really did start with Storr about 4 points ago. And to the back line it goes. Nice serve by Tenuta. And at the net, the Bulldogs defense, unfortunately, this one falls in favor for the Vikings. They saved the timeout. the coach decides to roll with it and let their players work through it, which is a tactic that I'm sure both of the coaches here are going to employ early on in the season. You want to get your players to work through different situations, different deficits as early on as you can, so later on in the season when it gets down to crunch time, you've been in all of those situations before. Trailing by 5, the Vikings. Serve bumped, set by Storr. Bruno puts it down for the Bulldogs. They'll take the serve right back. 6-point lead. And they have held control of momentum here most of this half of game 2. Game 1 went to the Bulldogs if you're just joining us. We are live at Federico Gymnasium, Lady Bulldogs game 1 of their 2022 volleyball campaign. This best of 5 matchup is 1-0 for the Bulldogs. Bumped to Bruno by Storr, into the net it goes, and the Vikings will get their 8th point. We'll hold the deficit at 5 and we'll take the serve. A substitution and set to serve for the Vikings, number 29, Catherine D'Angelo. At the net for the Bulldogs, you have Federico, Storr, and Bruno. And that's going to get just over the net. Nice spot on the serve. Donato tried to get the dig, couldn't quite get there. That's going to be an ace, 13-9. And I'll tell you, all the players that the Vikings brought, along with their fans, really kind of, at least audibly, is a little bit of a force in the gymnasium here. It sounds like they're a lot louder than they really are. And the serve tries to drop it to that same spot. The Bulldogs handle it. And Storr with the bump set. Donato puts it over. And number 11 with the set. Number 2 dinks it, and the Bulldogs unable to handle it. May, the captain for the Vikings, finds a soft spot over the head of the defense, the blockers of the Bulldogs. And the Vikings now trail only by 3, 13-10. D'Angelo set to serve. As I was saying, they have so many players. When they roar loud. And along with the fans that they brought along. And Giancarelli handles it. Storr to Federico. Off the hands of, no, I thought a Viking got one. They did. Tipped at the line, point Bulldogs, who will get the serve. Number 25 set to serve for Donato. I thought a Viking got their hand on it, and they did. And Donato serve. Spiked by the Vikings. Nice offense. Nice transition from defense to offense. Number 25 puts it down. And they get the point and serve right back. 1 point Bulldog lead. And the last second substitution here. Number 11 for the Vikings. Ali High is set to serve. She's had an active star here today. And the serve to the back line, Giancarelli. Handles it, but the Bulldogs not able to get in the offense. Arnold saves them, dumps it from long range. And another dink. They find the soft spot. And they are now trailing only by 1 with the serve. High is set to serve, number 11 for the Vikings, who again are loud on their side of the gym. We are tied up at 13 here in game 2. And Federico puts it over. Back line. Highs tries to put it over. Federico gets the block, gets credit as Highs goes over the net with it, even though the ball landed on the Bulldogs side. The Bulldogs are going to get the point, and they're going to get the serve. And I don't think all the Vikings were really aware of that, but they are now. And the coach is just getting an explanation as to what happened. I saw it. It happened, and it's good for the Bulldogs. 13 for the Vikings, 14 for the Bulldogs, and Summer Bruno set to serve as the official made the explanation and the whistle, and we're off. Halfway through game 2, much like game 1, we're nearly knotted up, and they dump it. Back line, Arnold, and then she finds the soft spot. Bulldogs can't handle it. Point is going to go to the Vikings, and we are tied here, 14-14, halfway through game 2. So these ladies are having to earn absolutely every point, every inch tonight in both of these games. Nearly 50 points scored in game 1. I think it was around 45, and it looks like it's going to be similar here in game 2. What a reverse bump by, I believe it was Donato for the Bulldogs, and that's going to be a Bulldog point carry by the Vikings. And that was all created by the overhead bump return by the Bulldogs. And now Federico, co-captain, set to serve for the Bulldogs. And a nice serve to the back line. Highs, set, and they look for the other dink attempt as they were finding success with it. The Bulldogs there this time. Set at the net, huge serve and dug out on the back by Federico. Great play, brought back in by Donato. Nice job by the Bulldogs, putting pressure on the Vikings to the back line, and Bruno's there. And it's up high, and bringing it in is going to be, that's Tenuta, who finds the floor and the point for the Bulldogs. 16-14 the score. Bulldogs 2-point edge. Captain Federico set to serve. As I said, she's comfortable here on the court as she finds home in the basketball court here as well. And the Vikings sort of dump it over. Bruno handles it. And that is Donato, and it is blocked at the net, and it's going to be put back over thanks to Caracciolo, who saves it at the net, and the Bulldogs return. And this is going to be Tenuta. It's deep. Vikings point, 16-15. 1 point game here in game 2. Holy smokes, you had to come power packed here, ready to go tonight. There is no slowly settling yourself into the season, working your way in. I don't even see all that much rustiness, and that goes to the credit of their preseason work, how much hard work they put in while everyone else was out there enjoying their summer. All of these athletes in all the different sports do it. And at the net, number 25, Donato, and into the net it goes by the Bulldogs. So we now have a tie game here, 16-16 in game 2. 9 points to go, race to 25, win by 2. And these ladies are working for it. 47 points scored in game 1, I believe. And just over the net, Vikings able to push it back, and this one goes to Caracciolo. Spike attempt blocked, and the roar from the Vikings side as they take a lead. Again, about midway through. This one a little later than game 1. Game 1 in the 14-15 point area, they took a brief lead. So here they are again, and let's see if the Bulldogs, we know they have tenacity, but this is an awful lot in game 1. Let me tell you, they had to come strapped in tonight. The serve for the Vikings. Knuckleball dives in no man's land. Nice serve, the ace. And this is a loud squad, 18-16. 7 points away are the Vikings. The Bulldogs have done a nice job tonight of not allowing the Vikings to get into more than anything like a 3-point run here or there. I think there might have been a 4, but nothing more than that, and the Bulldogs have been able to string together a few runs of a little greater than that. Serve to the same spot. Bruno can't handle it. Right now, momentum in favor of the Vikings. Timeout, Coach Beal and the Bulldogs, and that's what they needed. A minute break here, Coach, folks, to hopefully break the momentum as they have now scored 4 in a row and lead by 3. This production brought to you in part by McQuaid's Ace Hardware, folks, your local family-owned hardware store located on Franklin Street in Westerly, RI, your full cleanup headquarters. So the Bulldogs, man, everything I have read by the coach's take and all the preseason reviews about the bump up to Division II and the differences in games that you're going to see, it has all played out here, folks, and we're only just over midway through game 2. I was told and I read that every game was going to be a battle. I was told and I read that the Bulldogs were going to have the capability of being in every single game and competing at the level that they were placed in. And that's exactly what you're seeing. As game 1, the Bulldogs took, so they are up 1-0. We are in the final third here, final quarter even of game 2. They trail by 3. They've led most of the way. This timeout, hopefully a momentum shifter for the Bulldogs, as the Vikings break with a 3-point lead, 19-16, race to 25, win by 2. Bulldogs looking for a quick side out. Tenuta up at the net. Peliquin and Caracciolo behind. And the serve, handled by Bruno. And it's going to be dinked over by Tenuta. And the low set, and it's dumped. Arnold. And this time it's Donato, and it's blocked by the Vikings. And they are forced to net, bounces over, Bulldogs to the back line. Vikings. Spike attempt, handled by Bruno. Donato. Peliquin to the middle, and they dive. What a dig by the Vikings. And Caracciolo puts it over to the back line. And the Vikings set. And they look for an easy dunk, and it's not there. Caracciolo with a set to Peliquin. Into the net it goes. Point, Vikings. And they extend the lead to 4, 20-16 in game 2. Set to serve again, number 15, co-captain Denisha Sherry. Bulldogs need to break the streak here. Vikings need only 5 more. 5 is hard to come by, and there you go. The Bulldogs get one back, and they get the serve. Like I said, Momentum is such a fickle thing. It swings very quickly, and it can go as something as quickly as a side out like that. An unforced error. Alex Storr, who has the capability of some heat-seeking missiles off of her arm, both from shortstop on the softball field to setting here to serving on the volleyball court. To the back line, they let it go. Inbounds point, ace Bulldogs. And they cut into the lead, 20-18. So that 4-point lead, just like that, instantly is cut in half to 2. Storr set to serve again for the Bulldogs. What a serve that was. And the righty drops it in the middle. They don't really handle it. Nice dig by the Vikings to keep it alive. The back set by Storr. Spike attempt by Donato inbounds. Yes, point Bulldogs. I think the Vikings at first thought it was theirs. It's not. Bulldogs get the point here and trail now only by 1. As the Vikings are bringing in a ball, they're going to get rid of that, and they're going to play D. And Storr looking for 3 in a row here, knotted up, and what a serve, it's an ace, and she comes in and takes control, 3 in a row. That's Alex Storr, the junior. And it's funny because now that we've been here for a few years, we're watching these athletes grow, and man, as she's one of them, have they turned into unbelievable athletes, I should say. 20-20, race to 5, block at the net, and this one falls in favor of the Vikings. So the 4-point run that the Bulldogs needed and got it just when they needed it ends. The Vikings have a 1-point lead and a side out. They are set to serve here. So the Bulldogs got the answer from Storr exactly when they needed it. I mean, these girls are multi-sport athletes. These girls don't fold under any pressure whatsoever. And we're going to see that all season long. Nice serve by the Vikings. Storr with the bump set to the back line. Arnold handles it to the deep side, and they can't handle it. Nice spot by Arnold. The captain, the senior. Leadership right there on the court. The side-out tie game. Race to 4, win by 2. Holy smokes, folks. You gotta earn every point here. Number 22, Tenuta. To the back line, they let it go, and the Vikings get it the easy way. 22-21. Substitution on the court. Bulldogs trail by 1. Didn't want to see that. Number 7 set to serve as Gianni Jackson for the Vikings. The whistle. The Vikings team on their feet as they always are. This one goes into the net, and the Bulldogs get the break that they most direly needed right there. The answer into the net. We are knotted at deuces here. 22-22, game 2. Race to 3, win by 2 here, folks. Dina Arnold into the net. Back and forth it goes on Forrest, which is odd here, folks. We didn't see this rustiness early on in game 1 or game 2, but we're seeing it now. A little bit of nerves early on in this season. Quite natural. 1-point lead. The Vikings need only 2. The serve. Handled by Donato. Storr the set at the net, and it's blocked at the net. And Donato, what a job to return it. Gingarelli to Storr. And that one's going to go to Bruno, who finds an open spot. Point Westerly. They will not go away. Tenacity is the word, folks. 23-23. Race to 25. A multiple substitution. Bulldogs bring in a little height with Pelican. Storr gets a break. On the other side, number 1, Ramos comes in. And that's going to be Donato with a serve and a beauty. They dig it out. That's Hayes with the set. Number 7 with the spike attempt. Arnold digs to the open spot. No man's land. Miscommunication by the Bulldogs. Gives them a freebie on game point here. Game number 2. Game point number 11. Allie Hayes, who has the capability, folks. She's been very active in the first 2 games. This is game point. Bulldogs need a side out right here to stay alive. Here is the serve. Handled by Bruno. Donato to the captain Federico. The spike attempt tipped and handled. Brought back in by Hayes. And the Vikings dump it. Federico. Donato to Bruno. Block out of bounds. Point Bulldogs. And again, they will not go away. We are knotted at 24. 48 points here in game 2. And it's a win by 2. They still need 2 more. One of these teams, anyway, for this game to go in the books. Combined 47 in game 1. This is outstanding. And the serve by Bruno. Tough one to dig out. At the net it goes. Bulldogs get the point. Federico was there in case. And the Bulldogs gain point. Timeout Vikings. Energy Bulldogs. We got a minute break, folks. 25-24. The Bulldogs will not go away, will not allow momentum throughout this entire game, too. Momentum has tried to inch and eke its way to the side of the Vikings. They've been packing and packing and packing, and they have earned up to a 4-point lead here where you think they might have control, and the Bulldogs just will not go away to the point that we are 30 seconds away. They have a 1-point lead and need only one more point to take a 2-0 lead. Let me tell you, folks, game number 1, 25-22 the final, 47 points scored. This game right here, folks, 49 points scored in game 2. I can't imagine if this thing were to go 4 or 5 games, how exhausting that's got to be, considering it's the first game of the year. I mean, they have talk about the preparation level that these girls have to have in the preseason, and they have obviously had because they are ready. They're doing it on the court on both sides. Game point, Summer Bruno. See if the Bulldogs can put away game number 2. And the gym goes quiet. I get loud. Here we go. The whistle. Bruno's serve to the back line, handled. And it's a miscommunication, and the unforced error gives the Bulldogs game number 2. Exactly what they needed. The Bulldogs steal game 2. They would not go away. They would not allow momentum. They would not allow that 5-6 point deficit. They just kept nipping and tucking all the way through to a 26-24 50-point combined victory in game number 2. We are headed to game number 3, folks. This is a best of 5 matchup. Bulldogs up 2-0 early game number 1 of the season, folks. I am the voice, Greg Morano, alongside producer, owner, Shane Belanger. We have Lisa behind the lens. We are Westerly.live, Westerly.radio, bringing you girls volleyball season opener. We got football tomorrow night, folks, versus the Chargers, and we will be right back. Welcome back, folks, and we are just 30 seconds away from game number 3, and it has been an exciting start to this 2022 sports season, girls volleyball season. Holy cow, folks. Game number 1, Bulldogs 25-22, 47 combined points. Game number 2, 26-24, 50 combined points. Welcome to Division II Bulldogs, but I give credit to Coach Beal and Coach Oth because they have this team prepared coming into the season, ready for their level of competition. They said that every game was going to be like this, and the girls are ready. Talk about having their legs under them this early in the season. I can't get over it because they don't appear tired at all. And I'll tell you what, I needed a preseason game for this one, folks, to keep up with what these girls are doing on the court. So that being said, we have the horn, and this program brought to you in part by Wireless Zone, Knickerbocker Music Center Live, and Tim Killam for Westerly School Committee. We are just seconds away. The official still getting some final substitution reports. And we are starting game number 3 of this best of 5 matchup. We are going to hit the field tomorrow, folks, in Charahoe for the Bulldogs season opener. Kickoff at 7 p.m. And the official is all set with the Bulldogs line. I'm going to head over to get the Vikings. So, as I said, this Bulldogs team off to a 2-0 start, and they have had to earn every bit of it. They come to the floor with 11 players dressed, I believe, maybe 12. And this Vikings squad, I haven't counted, but they definitely have near 20. 20 or more even. And they're a loud force. When they start to score a few in a row, it's easy to steal momentum with simple things like that. And the Bulldogs have not really allowed them to do that. They tried in game 2, and they were successful, and they were trailing by 1 at one point, and they moved it all the way to a 4-point lead. But this Bulldog team will not go away. And let me tell you, they want this night to end right now in 3 games. Here we go, game number 3. The first serve, it's a beauty, it's an ace. Dina Arnold diving from the back line. She does such a fantastic job in the back line for the Bulldogs. Her as well as Gincarelli when it comes to digs and handling the serves. That's a great start for the Vikings, though. 1-0 Federico dumps to the back corner, handled by the Vikings. Hayes with the set and the spike attempt, and that's a tough spot in the corner. Nice spot found by the Vikings, 2-0 early here in game number 3. Season opener. Boys soccer for the Bulldogs are starting out their season as well on Salo Jerry Field. Everything's getting started. I'm excited. I didn't have much of a preseason to keep up with speed like this to start. Nice serve to start, handled by Storr. Brought back in and over by Federico, just out of bounds. So the Vikings starting out pretty well here as far as service side goes. Coach Beal's having none of it. Quick timeout. Minute break to start things off. She doesn't want to start things with any kind of momentum or too much of a trailing by too many early on. We are Westerly.live, Westerly.radio, brought to you in part by McQuaid's Ace Hardware, your local family-owned hardware store located on Franklin Street in Westerly, RI, your fall cleanup headquarters. Wireless Zone, your Verizon authorized retailer, located in Dunn's Corners next to Duncan, cell phone sales, service, and repair. So as the Bulldogs and Vikings get their instruction, Vikings are now playing for their lives here tonight in Game 1, first league matchup of the season, first matchup of any kind of the season, besides any kind of preseason scrimmages. And the Bulldogs talk about coming out prepared for a division jump up. I really wasn't expecting them to pop out to a 2-0 lead. I watched Rogers warm up. I watched the Bulldogs warm up, and both teams really looked excellent in warm-ups. I was actually surprised, and we've seen very little rust as far as getting into their offenses. Both teams just going to get better as the season goes on. Serving with a 3-0 lead, number 11, Hayes, and the timeout works in favor of Coach Beal and the Bulldogs. That's exactly what they were hoping for as it goes off of the back of one of the Vikings' heads. And they laugh it off with a 3-1 lead to start game number 3 here. If the Bulldogs can pull this one off, it'll be a game 1 sweep. And it'll feel like 5 games. That's an ace on the floor by number 25, Abby Donato, who gets set to serve. 3-2, Vikings with an early lead here. The Bulldogs with their patented jump handshake thing. I'll get a name from them, what they call that. And the serve, a beauty from the back line. Off the rafters, the Vikings are able to keep it inbounds and return it, though. And that is going to be Donato. Handles it over the net. It goes. Bruno gets the point for the Bulldogs, and we are knotted up at 3. And I have a feeling when the score is up in the teens, folks, you might be hearing that term, knotted up again, or trailing only by. It seems like I'm saying those things a lot here tonight in game 1. And the bump, set, and spike attempt by the Vikings to the back line. Gincarelli handles it and reeled back in, brought over by Gincarelli off the net. Block attempt was there by the Vikings, didn't need to. They take a 4-3 lead and the side out. Early on here in game 3, no quit in the Viking bench. The crowd has quieted down a little bit. A lot of unknown for the Bulldogs. When you come into a new division, all new teams, you really don't know what to expect. And when you win the first 2 games, that one's a tough one to handle on the backside by Gincarelli, falls short of the net, and it'll be a 5-3 Bulldog lead. All you can go by is scouting reports, tape, and the Bulldogs have done a wonderful job here coming out to a 2-0 lead, and you almost expect it to go back and forth here in game 3. You don't expect somebody to pull away. What a spike attempt put down by Federico there, handled by the back line of the Vikings, and their attempt goes out of bounds. Bulldogs point, side out, 5-4 the score. Before it gets too far away, that 2-point lead cuts into 1, and Summer Bruno set to serve for the Bulldogs, another multi-sport athlete, as are many. In front of her, number 1, Arnold, co-captain on the diamond all summer long, winning championships as well as in the spring for the Bulldogs. To the back line by Bruno. And at the net, dink attempt, and Peliquin's there. Set for the Vikings. They try it again. This time they score in the middle of a few Bulldogs. 6-4 score, side out. Game 3. And Vikings don't want to get shorted here tonight. And as quick as they came, a loss here in Game 3, they would be gone. And it sure doesn't feel like 3 games with all the points that have been scored. I mean, you can have 4 and 5 game matches with these amounts of points. To the back line, handled by Arnold. Nice job handling it. Bringing it in, and the Bulldogs to the back line of the Vikings. And that's going to be Highs. And they put it over, handled by Tenuta. Donato back to Tenuta. Spike. The block attempt out of bounds by the Vikings. Side out, point for the Bulldogs. And they are back within 1, 6-5. Federico set to serve for the Bulldogs, senior captain. And she'll stay on this court for a while now as she will take residence here in the fall and winter. And to the net, banked over. Peliquin will return for the Bulldogs. And it's a bump set by the Vikings there to find an open spot. Nice dig by the Bulldogs. Bruno will put it to the back line. Nice job keeping it alive by the Dogs at the front line. And put down hard by number 28. Malakiani Lou for the Vikings gets the point for the Vikings. 2-point lead here in Game 3. Substitution. A couple players on both sides. Federico will get a little break. Back line for the Bulldogs remains on the court. So far has tonight, as far as Arnold, Bruno, Donato, Caracciolo. They're out there for the long haul, it seems. And the serve, and this is the reason, a missile to the back line handled by Bruno. And Arnold to the front, and Tenuta handled by the Vikings, and they dump it back over to the Bulldogs. Arnold brings it up. Spike set by Tenuta. Excuse me, that was Donato. Brought in, and the Bulldogs can't return out of bounds. 8-5, 3-point deficit for the Bulldogs. Early on, no panic, obviously, on this Bulldog squad. Not seeing any signs of fatigue on either side, I got to be honest. I mean, I have fatigue and they don't. It's crazy. And this one's going to go long. Bulldogs will take it. Any freebies possible you'll take. And it's funny because these 2 games, the entirety of the first game, in my opinion, was played pretty sharply considering it's the first game of the season. Very little rust. When we got to late in that last game, a few unforced errors late in the game. And you haven't seen much of that since in this game. And brought back up Tenuta. Caracciolo back to Tenuta. Into the net it goes, blocked by the Vikings. And they'll take the point and the 3-point lead back 9-6. So back and forth we go. Set to serve for the Vikings. And I can't always see the front line here for the Bulldogs. We're going to have Caracciolo, Storr in the game again for the Bulldogs. We got number 22, Tenuta. And the serve by number 7. Handled by Donato to Storr. Back to Donato. And brought up by the back line of the Vikings. Set. High is far side. Brought up by Arnold. Storr. Tenuta. Line drive. Into the stands it goes. They can't handle it. Nice hit by Tenuta. Side out. Bulldogs point. And again, they trail only by 2. Although it seems like most things thus far in Game 3 are going the way of the Viking. If you look at the scoreboard, that's not the case. This Bulldog team just doesn't really allow it. Whenever it's gotten to be 3 or more, the one time it did, timeout was called, halted that. They let it go. Did it touch the line? No, it did not. Point Vikings. That's unfortunate, 10-7. Substitution, Gencarelli in, Tenuta out. Substitution on the other side. And that's going to be an entrance for the front line, number 15 for the Vikings. That's co-captain Nyasha Sherry, active night on the front line, also at the service position. Serving now is number 29, Catherine D'Angelo for the Vikings. To the back line, Gencarelli cuts off Arnold. Storr sets it to the net. Turned into a beautiful set at the net. Caracciolo doing everything she can to keep it alive, and it stays alive. Arnold tries to get it over. They can't do it. Bulldogs bouncing around a little bit. 11-7 the score. No panic on the side of the Bulldogs. D'Angelo set to serve again for the Vikings. If you are just tuning in, folks, this is the season opener. Ladies volleyball action here at Federico Gymnasium. Game 3, best of 5 match. Bulldogs up 2-0. But it hasn't been as easy as it sounds. 2-0. Into the net it goes. Point Vikings. Their lead extends to 5. One of their bigger leads of the evening has been 5. I don't believe it's been any larger than that So this will be about where the Bulldogs you're going to see either point by the Bulldogs or a near timeout for the Bulldogs. So as I said, they have a 2-0 lead, but they have earned it if you haven't been watching. 26-24 final in game 2 and 25-22, I believe, in game 1. And they try to catch them sleeping, and it turns into a Bruno hit over the net and the back line handled. The Vikings in sync right now, Highs to number 2. Bruno brings it back up, and Storr tries to catch him sleeping on the front line. Highs gets a good set in, and again, this one's sliding forward is Storr. Out of bounds, inbounds it goes, the Vikings cheer. And they are excited here, 13-7, folks. So the Bulldogs are going to let them run it out a little bit. And a little net adjustment being made. And again, like I said early on in the season with a 2-0 lead, the coaches may want to watch their players play through something like this, get through a situation like this until it gets to a certain point, of course. But you got to play through them at some point. Why not with a 2-0 lead? And Bruno's attempt blocked. Everything going the way of the Viking right now. Timeout, Bulldogs. I had a feeling it was in store soon. So the Vikings, no quitting this Viking squad down 2-0. They came to play here in game number 3. Bulldogs going to get a little bit of water and try to shake things up here as the Vikings do have momentum. That's why the timeout was called. That being said, the Bulldogs 2-0 lead being tested here in game number 3. And the Bulldogs season, like I said, they're in Division 2 now. The Bulldogs will move on from this one. And on the 12th, they're going to head off to St. Ray's, and that's never a great place to head, really, in any sport. St. Ray's always puts a quality opponent on the court, in the field, in the gym, wherever they are. It doesn't really matter. They generally have a quality opponent. So it's going to be like that all season long, it appears. Even their non-league contests, they're playing Fitch. For example, Coach Beal and Coach Auth choosing to test their team rather than just try to get a win on the board with their non-league schedule. So the Bulldogs have an exciting season in store for them. They have a lot of new things this season, and they have some great young athletes on their team that we're going to see integrated into the lineup more as the season goes. This being only game 1, we're going to see the activity of some freshmen here moving up into varsity action. So trailing by 7, 14-7, game number 3. Here we go. Arnold digs it up from the back line. Storr to Bruno, and they put it down. Beal's timeout works, and that's the momentum breaker they were hoping for, folks. Every time she's called one tonight, it's turned into a Bulldog point, 14-8. And now let's see if they can cut into it a little bit. Substitution on the floor, and as I was saying, some new players coming in and integrating themselves into the lineup as the freshman Lila Auth stepping on the floor. On the front line, obviously has the height, another multi-sport athlete with a huge future here for the Bulldogs. Dina Arnold, the senior captain, serving for the Bulldogs. And that line drive serve out of bounds, it goes. Point number 15 for the Vikings, 15-8 to score. So the front line for the Bulldogs as it stands at the moment is Auth, Bruno, and Caracciolo. Not far. Bruno's going to back off, and Gincarelli handles it. Bruno with the spike attempt. She lets it go soft to the deep end. Handled by D'Angelo to the Bulldog side. Dug out by Arnold. Over to Bruno. Spike attempt blocked by the Vikings, who really are playing well here in Game 3. They're putting together their best game, and it's evident on the scoreboard, 16-8, as they have the Bulldogs doubled up at the moment. Serve by number 11. Knuckleball, out of bounds it goes. Just what the doctor ordered for the Bulldogs. They need it. A substitution on deck for the Bulldogs. Storr is going to head out, and in comes Peliquin. Definitely their height lineup in for the Bulldogs. Auth and Peliquin at the front line is going to be as tall as you're going to see, I'd imagine, on any team. They definitely have some height here as they get some final substitution intricacies figured out on the far side. 16-9 the score, folks. This is Game 3. The Bulldogs have a 2-0 lead. It's a race to 3 games, best of 5 matchup. Set to serve the freshman, Lila Auth. And the serve, a beauty. Front spin and liner to the back line. And a little miscommunication, dumped over by the Vikings. Auth with the set. Caracciolo spike to the back line. Point Bulldogs. 16-10. So they interrupt the run now for the Vikings and look to cut in a little bit. Off to looking for 2 in a row. The freshman, senior first, varsity Bulldog action. And an ace by the freshman. Coming in style, no pressure. Ice in the vein, 16-11, bringing her Bulldog team back into things here. Number 15 set to serve, looking for 3 in a row. The freshman comes in firing. And another beauty. They can't handle it up into the rafters, into the hoops. They're not going to be able to bring it back. Can they really? And they cannot. Almost got fortunate. And that's another ace by the freshman, Lila, off. 3 points in a row, 2 via the ace, looking for 4 in a row. Talk about a confidence builder. If you're a freshman and you come in firing like this. And another beauty to no man's land. Another ace. Holy smokes, folks. And they're down by 3. That's 4 in a row. And this Bulldog team fired up. This is crazy. Coming in like they've been there before. Freshman steps on the court and takes control. And this one deep fired, and they needed that. The Vikings, that is. They had no answer for her serve. The score 17-13, and the Bulldogs right back in this game too now. So now they get a substitution. In comes Donato. And a great job by the freshman of breaking, definitely giving the Bulldogs momentum, obviously giving them height and some service ability. Holy smokes. And from the back line, Gencarelli. Off the net, Bulldogs can't handle it, and they give one right back to the Vikings, who now scrape their lead back to 5. So if you're a freshman and you come in firing like that, you come in with confidence from here out. That is just a fantastic thing to see if you're a Bulldog. From the back line, Arnold tries to handle it. The ace, nice serve by the Vikings. Timeout called. No timeout called. The Vikings set to serve, number 2, Captain Camilla May. 19-13, they're inching their way. When you hit that number 20, pressure starts to eke in. Bruno handles it. Set by Arnold and put over the net backwards by Bruno for the Bulldogs. Back line, Gencarelli. Handled by Donato. Bruno deep, and it's off of a Viking. Fortunately for the Bulldogs, they get point number 14. More importantly, they don't let the Vikings get any closer to that number 25 substitution. In comes Tenuta, who's had an active day along with Donato. I think I may have been getting them mixed up here and there. Hopefully not. Number 13, Summer Bruno set to serve for the Bulldogs, trailing by 5 here in game number 3 of this best of 5 match. The season opener for both squads. And they have had nipped and tucked and fought for every point. This one goes to the Bulldogs. 4-point lead. Set to serve again for the Bulldogs. Summer Bruno, who's had a great night thus far. I don't know anyone who's had a bad night. Let me tell you, this Bulldog team has had to come out firing and put things together faster than they would have had they remained in Division 3. Serve deep. And the Vikings get the side out they need. They have a 5-point lead. That 20 number is on the board. They need only 5 more. Number 15 set to serve for Rogers, the senior Sherry. The whistle, and we're off. Bulldogs looking to prevent a game number 4. That one's going to go deep, and Arnold, the senior, wisely lets it go. They get the unforced error. The side out this time goes their way, and they trail only by 4, 20-16. A big spy here, and nobody more capable than Arnold. Set to serve for the Bulldogs. And the first to that back line, they can't handle it. An ace. The spin by Arnold. The Vikings don't handle it. The Bulldogs get the point. Trail only by 3, 20-17. Arnold looking for 2 in a row. She's been in pressure situations in more sports than just this and handles them all with 0 difficulty, forcing the Vikings to dump from the back line. Federico, spike attempt, block attempt, goes deep by the Vikings. Point Bulldogs, and they trail only by 2, 20-18, and this Bulldog team has no quit in them, let me tell you. Arnold looking for 3 in a row. And a nice front spinner. Bump, and they're going to have to dump it over, and they do. And it's a carry. Bulldogs take advantage, trail only by 1 at the hand of Arnold here. Looking for 4 in a row here to tie things up. And the serve, a line drive to the other side of the court. Again, they don't handle it well, out of bounds. She touches it twice. Point Bulldogs, we're knotted up, and the senior star for the Bulldogs, co-captain Dina Arnold, takes charge as soon as they put the ball in her hands and knots things up here. Doesn't like the flip, will take two. Let's see if the Bulldogs can take their first lead. The knuckleball, so many different types of serves she has just shown. And they try to dump it over, it hits the net. It hits the marker, out of bounds. Bulldogs capture their first lead, folks. Maybe this game. Arnold set to serve for 6 in a row. And in no man's land, they're forced to dump it. Bruno to Donato to Tenuto. Is it tipped? No. The Vikings will knot it up. 21-21. So if the Bulldogs can get to 25, win by 2, this match is over, folks. The Vikings, however, have the serve. 21-21, are playing for their lives in this one. Race to 25, win by 2. Number 1, Ramos serving for the Vikings. Combined 42 points, and the Bulldogs will take the lead on the unforced error into the net. Arnold just closed the entire gap, gave the Bulldogs the lead, and now number 9, the star Alex Storr, who is capable of launching missiles. Let's see if there's one in her arm here. And she throws a knuckleball at them. They don't handle it well, but it's up. And they're going to have to dump it over into the net. Point Westerly, 23-21, only 2 points away. Timeout goes the way of the Viking. That is their first timeout tonight, folks. So they obviously now feel the vice grip on them. They are only 2 points away from their evening being over. And let me tell you, folks, even in this one, we're 2 points away from a possible finish of this game 3, and there's been 44 points scored. There's no 25-15 games, 25-10 games. We even saw 25 single-digit games last year. I don't think we're going to see that this year anywhere along the way. Like I said, this is their first exposure. This is my first exposure to Division II volleyball here, and it is exciting. Let me tell you that. It is at a high rate of speed, 100 miles an hour. These girls came in prepared. I give credit to both teams. Extremely credit to the coaching staff and these athletes on Westerly. They have been tested the whole way, and in this game 3, they were tested more than any game. They could lose this game. They could afford to and still move on, and they trailed by 7 points, 14-7. They could have said, all right, we'll get them next game. Nope, they nipped and tucked their whole way back. Dina Arnold took control with the serve. They now have a 2-point lead. Served by Storr. Tough to handle, dug out. It's a back set, and they put it over. Handled by Tenuta. Storr with the set, back to Tenuta. Back line by the Vikings. Set, blocked at the net by Federico. It's going to be set over. Tenuta, and it falls to the floor. Donato puts it over for the Bulldogs. The block attempt falls, and this is match point, folks. This can put away league game match number 1 for the Bulldogs. Alex Storr looking for 3 in a row and the match. The serve to the back line. They force it straight over. It was a missile. Storr with the set. Bruno into the net it goes. We're going to have to play another point, folks. 24-22. The Vikings don't go away. Number 7 set to serve. Unfortunately, they need 2 in a row here, folks, to stay alive. They have it's a must-score situation. They need 2 in a row to continue this game, to continue this match. And Jackson to the back line. Bruno keeps it in. Donato, and that's to Federico out of bounds. 24-23. 1 point in. They need 1 more to keep it alive. Bulldogs come together. The D gets focused, and we're set to go here again. Holy smokes, folks. We got sports ramped right up here in game 1. Number 7 for the Vikings, the serve. And it's a beauty, handled backwards by Bruno, and they're able to bring it back by Federico. Bulldogs fortunate they can reset. And the spike attempt inbounds, I think, and it is. Point by the Vikings, tied back up. Now it's a win by 2 situation like both other games, folks. 24-24, 48 combined points scored. And number 7 for the Vikings, Gianni Jackson, showing no pressure here. Looking for point number 4 in a row. They needed 2, 3 in a row. They needed 2, and they got them. And this one goes to the back line. They let it go, and the Bulldogs, they get it right back. Exactly what, as they would say, the doctor ordered. immediately fall into a match point situation. Number 22, Ava Tenuta, has had such a great game tonight. One of the co-captains, the serve, a teardrop to the back line, set deep to the back line, into the net, and the Bulldogs win their first match in Division II. As they wave goodbye to each other, folks, what an exciting volleyball match we have just brought you and that these girls have just put on. I give so much credit to this Westerly girls volleyball team. They came in, talk about conditioning they needed to have in the preseason to be ready for this level of competition in the first game of the year. All three games combined near 50 points. That's unheard of. And the Bulldogs' tenacity to be able to pull out all three games when the Vikings held a 14-7, doubled them up halfway through game 3. Just a credit to this girls volleyball team. We'll be seeing a lot more out of them. And folks, you're going to be seeing a lot more out of us. We're just getting started. We are Westerly.live. I am the voice, Greg Morano, alongside the producer, owner, Shane Belanger. We have Lisa behind the lens, and we are ready to bring you the kickoff of the Bulldogs football season tomorrow night at Charger Stadium, folks. 7 p.m. kickoff. Tune in. We are bringing it to you live. Signing off from a volleyball victory, folks.